In this video, we're going to add some more static data to our GraphQL dataset, and we're going to write a new query resolver to resolve that data. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is create a new file. So I'm going to add a file called, say, data.js. And in here, I'm going to create a variable called users, which is going to be an array of objects. And I'm also going to do module.exports and then export these users. And for each user, I'm going to have an ID and I'm going to have a name. So I'm going to add myself, add another ID for another name, and do one more so that we will have 3 users. So this is just very simply a static data set that we're exporting from data.js, and in app.js I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I add the users by requiring data and then .users. Once this is done, let's go ahead and have a new query for when we want to return users. We should get multiple user types, right? Because a query for users signifies that we want to have multiple of that entity. So we need to put that user type into square brackets. And remember, we now have an ID and a name for our user type. So let's also add ID, which should not be null. So now that we've added this user's query type, we need to add the appropriate resolver as well. So we need to tell GraphQL to say, hey, if someone is requesting a list of users, how you should return that list. So let's create the users query resolver, which is going to be very simply just a function call, and what it's going to return is just users, that array of objects. Now let's also remove this me thing from here, and let's in fact create another variable and say me. So I am the first element in here, so I could do users and 0. And then for me, we're just going to return not a static text, but the variable me. Okay, so let's save this and fire up our GraphQL server. Let's go back to our playground. And see this in action. So theoretically, this should now return my name. Okay, so that's perfect. And let's see what happens when we press Ctrl space. Okay, so we only have me, which means that probably our schema did not refresh. And in fact, it didn't refresh. So in order to refresh this, we need to refresh the playground. So just make sure that you do this as well. And then now we have users as well as me. And if you open up the schema, we should now get the 2 queries, and for users, we have the updated schema. Perfect. So let's go ahead and do users, and let's see the name of all the users. And here is that list. So now we get all the names for the users coming from that static dataset that we just added. Let's also add ID. And now we get their IDs as well as their names.